The first mistake almost everyone makes when seeking the monad is assuming the monad is something you must find. This single misunderstanding has misled spiritual seekers for centuries. It turns the deepest realization possible into just another spiritual chase. Because the moment you start searching for the monad, you have already stepped away from it. Not because the monad is hidden, but because the one doing the searching appears inside it. Many spiritual traditions speak about the monad as the ultimate source, the one, the absolute, the ground of all being. But something strange happens the moment people hear about it. They immediately turn it into an objective goal. They begin asking questions like, where is it? How do I reach it? What practices will bring me there? And without realizing it, they have already created the first illusion. Because the monad is not something you move toward. It is the very reality in which movement appears. And this misunderstanding is the first mistake nearly everyone makes when beginning the journey. The mind understands reality through objects. A tree, a feeling, a person. Everything the mind knows exists as something it can observe. So when the mind hears about the monad, it automatically assumes the monad must also be something. Something ultimate, something divine, something cosmic, but still something. And that is where the confusion begins. Because the monad is not an object inside reality. It is that which allows reality itself to appear. You cannot observe it the way you observe a star. You cannot think it the way you think an idea. And you cannot reach it the way you reach a destination. The moment you try to treat the monad as an object, you unknowingly step into duality. Observer and observed, seeker and sought, subject and object. But the monad exists prior to that division. Once the monad becomes an object, another illusion is automatically created. The seeker. The mind now believes there is someone who must reach realization, someone who must grow, someone who must evolve, someone who must eventually arrive. But look closely. Who is the seeker? Is it the body? Is it the personality? Is it the thoughts? Every identity the seeker claims is something that appears and disappears. Thoughts come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Personalities change over time. But the monad cannot be something that comes and goes. It is the constant background in which all experiences arise. So when the mind says, I will realize the monad someday, it unknowingly creates a paradox. Because the seeker itself is an appearance inside the monad already. The wave cannot search for the ocean. It is already moving within it. Another mistake happens the moment seeking begins. Realization is pushed into the future. The mind begins imagining some moment ahead in time where everything will finally click. A breakthrough, an awakening, a final understanding. But time itself appears within awareness, and the monad is prior to awareness of time. So how could something that exists beyond time be reached through time? It cannot. This is why many seekers spend decades chasing enlightenment. Not because realization is far away, but because they keep postponing it. They keep assuming the truth will happen later. But the monad is not a future discovery. It is the immediate ground of experience right now. So if the monad cannot be found as an object, and cannot be reached through seeking. What changes? The shift is surprisingly simple. Instead of searching for the monad, you begin examining the one who is searching. Where does the seeker appear? What is aware of thoughts? What notices emotions? What sees the sense of me? When you look closely, you cannot find a solid self. You only find awareness itself. Not personal awareness, not individual consciousness, just the simple fact that experience is happening. And when attention rests here long enough, something subtle becomes clear. The monad was never hidden. The only thing that was hiding it was the assumption that it was somewhere else. The first mistake people make when seeking the monad is simple. They assume it is something they must reach. But the monad is not a destination. It is not a cosmic object. It is not a spiritual reward waiting at the end of the path. It is the very ground on which the path appears. The seeker appears inside it. The search appears inside it. Even the question of realization appears inside it. And the moment this is seen clearly, the entire search begins to soften. Because the monad was never absent. It was simply overlooked by the one trying to find it. There is a strange paradox hidden in the spiritual path. The harder someone seeks truth, the further they often move away from it. And nowhere is this more visible than in the search for the monad. Many seekers spend years chasing the monad as if it were some ultimate spiritual destination, a cosmic state, an enlightened realization, or a final achievement waiting at the end of the path. But here is the quiet truth no one tells you. The very act of seeking the monad can create the illusion that you are separate from it. And that illusion is the only thing that keeps the realization from becoming obvious. In philosophy, the monad refers to the absolute source, the indivisible reality from which all existence arises. It is not a thing among other things. It is not a location in the universe. It is not a higher realm waiting to be reached. The monad is the fundamental unity that exists prior to every division, including the division between seeker and truth. Yet most spiritual paths unknowingly turn the monad into an object of pursuit. People seek it, meditate for it, study endlessly to understand it. But when the monad becomes something to obtain, the mind quietly reinforces the idea that you are here and the monad is somewhere else. And that assumption is where the separation begins. The moment the mind says, I must realize the monad, a subtle identity is created. The identity of the seeker. And the seeker always exists in relation to something that has not yet been attained. This creates a psychological distance between the individual and the truth they are pursuing. The mind divides reality into two sides: the seeker and the realization, the student and the truth, the individual and the monad. But the monad is not something separate from the one seeking it. If it were separate, it would not be the monad. The search assumes a gap that does not actually exist. And because the mind believes the gap is real, it spends years trying to cross it. But you cannot travel towards something that was never apart from you in the first place. Another trap appears when the mind tries to conceptualize the monad. People imagine it as a divine light, a cosmic intelligence, a higher self, a universal consciousness. While these things can be useful pointers, they can also become obstacles. But why? Because once the mind creates an image of the monad, it begins chasing that image. It tries to reach a certain experience, a certain state, a certain level of spiritual awareness. But every image the mind creates is still something observed, and anything that can be observed cannot be the monad itself. The monad is not an experience appearing within awareness. It is the reality within which all experience appears. When the mind turns the monad into an object of perception, it unknowingly places it inside the field of duality. And the moment that happens, the original unity is hidden again. Seeking also creates another illusion, the idea that realization exists in the future. The seeker believes, one day I will realize the monad. But this belief pushes truth into a later moment. It creates a timeline, a journey, a process of becoming. Yet the monad is not something that appears at the end of time. It is what makes time itself possible. It is the silent background in which past, present, and future unfold. If the monad were truly realized at a specific moment, that would mean it began there. But the monad cannot begin. It cannot appear. It cannot arrive. Because it has always been the underlying reality of every moment that has ever existed. Seeking therefore reinforces the illusion that realization is something that must be eventually found, instead of something that is already present. This is why many genuine realizations occur not when seeking intensifies, but when it quietly stops. At some point, the mind exhausts itself. All the philosophies, all the practices, all the conceptual frameworks. Eventually, the seeker begins to notice something strange. Every attempt to reach the truth assumes a distance that cannot actually be found. So the search collapses. Not because someone gives up, but because the illusion of separation becomes impossible to maintain. And in that moment, something simple becomes clear. The monad was never hidden. The only thing that obscured it was the assumption that it needed to be found. When that assumption dissolves, what remains is not a dramatic cosmic experience. It is something far more ordinary and far more profound. The recognition that the reality you were seeking was never outside of what you already are. Realizing the monad is not an event. It is the ending of a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding that there is a separate self who must somehow reconnect with the source of existence. When that misunderstanding dissolves, the seeker and the truth are seen as one movement. Life continues. Thoughts appear. The world unfolds. But the center of identity shifts. Instead of experiencing reality as an individual moving through existence, there is the quiet recognition that existence itself is appearing. Nothing was gained. Nothing new was added. What disappeared was only the belief in separation. And when that belief dissolves, the monad is not something realized. It is simply what has always been the case. So if you are seeking the monad, there is nothing wrong with the search itself. The path often begins that way. But at some point, the deepest shift occurs when the seeker begins to question the assumption behind the search. The assumption that the monad is somewhere else. Because the monad is not waiting to be found. It is not hidden behind experience. It is not located in some distant spiritual state. It is the indivisible reality in which the seeker, the search, and the universe itself are all appearing. And when that becomes clear, the search does not lead to the monad. It dissolves into it. There is a quiet paradox at the heart of the spiritual path. The more intensely someone tries to reach the ultimate reality, the further it seems to slip away. People meditate harder, study deeper, adopt more spiritual practices, and yet the realization they seek never fully arrives. But why? Because the very act of trying to reach the monad is the mechanism that keeps it hidden. Not because the monad is distant, but because the seeker itself is the illusion standing in the way. Today, we are going to uncover a truth that many seekers overlook. Trying to reach the monad doesn't bring you closer to it. It quietly reinforces the illusion that you are separate from it. Throughout spiritual history, the monad has been described as the ultimate reality, the source of all existence, the ground of consciousness, the indivisible unity behind all appearances. Philosophers, mystics, and seekers have spent centuries trying to understand it. But here is the critical point that is often missed. The monad cannot be reached. Not because it is impossible, but because it is not somewhere else. The monad is not a destination. It is the reality that is already present before the idea of reaching ever arises. And when someone begins seeking it as an object, something subtle happens. They unknowingly move further away from recognizing what was never absent. Let's explore why. The moment a person begins trying to reach the monad, they unknowingly create a split. There is now the seeker and the monad, one who is here and something that must be attained. But the monad, by definition, is absolute unity. There cannot be two. The moment a seeker tries to reach it, they have already stepped into duality. The mind has created a story. I am here, and enlightenment is over there. I am incomplete, and the monad will complete me. But the monad cannot be reached through division, because division itself is the illusion. This is why many people spend years on spiritual paths and still feel like they are approaching realization. Approaching, but never arriving. Because the one who is approaching is the very thing that dissolves when realization occurs. The mind has a habit. It turns everything into an object. Something to understand, something to grasp, something to reach. But the monad is not an object within reality. It is the reality in which all objects appear. Trying to reach the monad is like a wave trying to reach the ocean, or a mirror trying to see the reflection. It is already what it is looking for. The mind cannot grasp the monad because the mind itself appears within it. So when the mind tries to reach it, it unknowingly keeps creating more concepts, more ideas, more philosophies, more explanations. And all of those explanations remain within thought. But the monad exists before thought appears. This is why the realization is not intellectual. It is not conceptual. It is a recognition that happens when the mind stops trying to capture what cannot be captured. Most seekers are driven by a quiet assumption. I am not there yet. This belief fuels effort. More meditation, more practices, more techniques. And none of these things are wrong. But they can quietly reinforce a powerful illusion. The illusion that realization is something that happens in the future. But the monad is not a future achievement. It is the reality of the present moment. Before thought, before identity, before the seeker even appears. When effort is driven by the belief that something is missing, it strengthens the sense of a separate self. And the separate self is precisely what dissolves in realization. So the seeker keeps running towards something that only appears when the running stops. At some point on the path, a profound shift becomes possible. Not a new teaching, not a new practice, but a new way of seeing. The question quietly changes from, how do I reach the monad, to something much simpler. What is here before the idea of reaching arises? When attention turns inward this way, something surprising becomes visible. The awareness that is looking was never separate from reality. It was never outside of the monad. The seeker was a story created by thought. And the moment that story relaxes, the distance collapses. Not because something new has been achieved, but because what was always present is finally recognized. This is the paradox many traditions point toward. Realization does not happen when the seeker finally reaches the truth. It happens when the seeker is no longer believed. The search dissolves, and what remains is simple presence, awareness without effort, being without becoming, life unfolding without the pressure to arrive somewhere else. This does not mean practices are useless. Meditation, contemplation, and inquiry can all help quiet the mind. But their real function is not to bring you somewhere new. Their function is to reveal what was already here before the journey began. The monad was never hiding. It was simply overlooked because the mind was busy trying to reach it. Trying to reach the monad pushes it further away for a very simple reason. It turns unity into a destination. And the moment unity becomes a destination, duality has already been created. The seeker and the sought. But the monad is what remains when that division dissolves. Not something gained, not something achieved. Simply the recognition that what you were searching for was the very awareness doing the searching. There is one attachment that keeps most seekers stuck, and almost no one sees it. It's not attachment to pleasure. It's not attachment to identity. It's not even attachment to the ego in the way people think. It's the attachment to becoming. The belief that one day you will arrive. One day you will finally awaken. One day you will become what you are not right now. And that belief is the trap. Because the moment you are trying to become, you have already assumed that you are not. And that assumption silently fuels the entire search. Most people don't enter spirituality casually. Something in life breaks the illusion. Maybe success didn't fulfill you. Maybe relationships kept repeating the same patterns. Maybe you achieved what you thought you wanted, and it still wasn't enough. So you start looking deeper. You meditate. You study. You question reality, identity, and consciousness. And at first, it feels like progress. Like you're moving in the right direction. But slowly, something subtle begins to form. You stop just exploring truth, and you start chasing it. Now awakening becomes something you will reach. Peace becomes something you will stabilize. Clarity becomes something you will achieve. And without realizing it, you've created a future version of yourself that you were trying to become. That is the hidden attachment. At some point, the mind builds an image. a version of you that is fully realized. Always present, always calm, free from reaction. And this image feels real. It feels like something you should be. So now, every moment becomes comparison. Why am I still reacting? Why am I not fully present yet? Why do I still feel this way? And just like that, a gap is created between who you are right now and who you think you need to become. But that version of you isn't truth. It's imagination shaped by expectation. And the moment you believe in it, you've stepped into time. Because now you need to get there. This is why it's so hard to detect. Because it feels like growth. It feels like discipline. It feels like effort in the right direction. It feels like sincerity. But look deeper. The feeling of getting closer only exists if you believe you are far away. The idea of progress only exists if you believe you are incomplete. So what feels like movement toward truth is actually movement inside the illusion of distance. And because it's dressed in spiritual language, you don't even question it. The ego doesn't disappear on the path. It adapts and becomes the one who meditates, the one who understands, the one who is almost there. And this version is harder to see because it sounds right. It says things like, I'm evolving, I'm getting closer, I just need more time. But underneath all of that is still identity. I am the one becoming awakened. And as long as that identity exists, so does the gap. Because there is still someone trying to become something else. Progress works in the world, but truth doesn't operate like that. Truth is not something you move toward. It's not waiting for you in the future. It's not the result of effort over time. The only reason it seems distant is because you've placed it there. So every step forward feels meaningful. But it's happening inside the assumption that you are not already what you're seeking. And that assumption is the real barrier. Not your habits, not your thoughts, not even your emotions, but the belief that you need to become. The shift doesn't happen by becoming something new. It happens when the movement of becoming is seen clearly. Not as an idea, but directly. You see that the search is built on the belief of lack. You see that the future you're chasing is imagined. You see that every step forward was reinforcing the same assumption. I am not there yet. And when that's seen, something stops. Not forced, not controlled. It just drops. The need to arrive loses its weight. The future loses its authority. And what remains isn't a perfected version of you. It's what has always been here, without the story of needing to change it. The hidden attachment isn't obvious. It hides inside effort. It hides inside discipline. It hides inside the desire to wake up. It tells you that you're progressing, that you're getting closer, that you're almost there. But as long as you're trying to become what you already are, the search continues. not because truth is far away, but because you keep placing it somewhere else. In the moment that stops, you don't arrive anywhere new. You just stop overlooking what has always been here. The moment you turn truth into something you own, you've already lost it. Spiritual knowledge was meant to dissolve the self, but the ego uses it to rebuild itself, stronger than before. And most people never even notice it's happening. There's a quiet trap on the spiritual path that almost no one talks about. You start learning, awakening, understanding deeper truths about reality, the mind, and the monad. But instead of becoming free, you slowly build a new identity out of it. Not a material identity, not a social one, but a spiritual identity. And it feels right. It feels elevated. It feels like growth. But what's actually happening is this. The ego isn't dying. It's adapting. In this video, we're going to break down exactly how the ego hijacks spiritual knowledge, how it turns truth into identity, and why this is one of the biggest blocks to real realization. Let's begin. Most people think the ego is something that just vanishes on the path, but it doesn't. It evolves. At first, the ego is obvious. I want success. I want validation. I want control. But once you enter spirituality, it gets more subtle. Now it becomes, I understand something that others don't. I am more aware. I'm more conscious. Same structure, different language. The ego trades material superiority for spiritual superiority. And because it sounds deeper, you don't even question it. But truth doesn't make you feel above anyone. It dissolves the need to compare entirely. Spiritual knowledge is meant to point beyond the mind, but the ego does something clever. It takes that knowledge and turns it into a self-concept. I know about the monad. I understand non-duality. I've had realizations. And now, instead of knowledge being a doorway, it becomes a label, a new identity to protect. You're no longer just experiencing truth. You're someone who knows truth. And the moment that happens, the mind quietly says, this is me now. But the truth doesn't belong to anyone. It can't be owned. It can't be turned into an identity. Once knowledge becomes identity, you start to defend it. Not consciously, but subtly. You correct people. You debate. You explain. But underneath all of this is a quiet need. The need to be right. Not because truth matters, but because your identity depends on it. And now, instead of being open, you become rigid. Instead of seeing clearly, you filter everything through what you already know. This is where growth stops. Because truth requires openness, but identity requires protection. You can't have both at the same time. One of the most dangerous parts of this trap is that it hides behind truthful language. Words like awareness, presence, oneness, and even the monad. These are real pointers, but the ego uses them like armor. You can say all the right things, and still be completely identified. You can speak about no self, while reinforcing a stronger self than ever before. And because the language sounds aligned, no one questions it, not even you. This is why the trap is so difficult to see. It doesn't feel like ego. It feels like understanding. At some point on the path, everything you've learned has to fall apart. Not because it's wrong, but because it was never meant to be held onto. Realization isn't about collecting truth. It's about losing the one who is collecting. Even the identity of someone who understands has to dissolve. Because the monad isn't something you know. It's what remains when there is no one left to claim knowing. And this is the shift most people resist. Not because they don't want truth, but because they don't want to lose the identity built around it. The ego doesn't fight spirituality. It joins it. It studies it. It speaks it. It becomes it. And that's why this trap is so powerful. Because it doesn't look like resistance. It looks like progress. But the real path isn't about becoming more spiritual. It's about becoming nothing at all. No identity, no position, no one to claim understanding. Just what is, without ownership. The greatest obstacle to realizing the monad is not ignorance. It's the seeker. Because the one who is searching believes the monad is somewhere else. Somewhere higher, somewhere beyond this moment, somewhere hidden behind enough effort. But the monad is not a prize waiting at the end of becoming. It is not hiding from you. It is not testing your worthiness. It is not sitting at the top of some spiritual mountain, waiting for the most disciplined mind to finally arrive. The reason the seeker cannot find the monad is simple. The seeker is built out of the very sense of separation that veils it. And as long as that structure remains unquestioned, every attempt to reach truth will only reinforce the illusion that truth is elsewhere. That is the trap. The seeker does not move toward the monad. The seeker moves in circles around what has never been absent. When people begin walking a spiritual path, the search often feels noble. It feels sincere. It feels alive with meaning. You want truth. You want reality. You want freedom from illusion. You want to know what is ultimate. On the surface, that sounds pure. And in one sense, it is. The longing for truth is not the problem. The problem begins when that longing gets translated through the mind into a project of self-achievement. Then spirituality becomes another journey of becoming, another identity, another ladder, another future, another subtle form of self-concern wearing sacred clothing. And this is where many seekers become trapped without realizing it. They think they are moving toward the monad, but what they are often doing is strengthening the one who believes it is separate from it. So in this video, we're going to break this down clearly. We will look at why the seeker cannot find the monad, how the search itself can become the veil, why effort alone does not reveal what is already whole, and what begins to shift when the need to arrive starts to fall away. Because the deepest realization is not that you finally found the monad. It is that what you are has never been apart from it. The seeker begins with the assumption, I am here, and truth is over there. That assumption is rarely spoken out loud, but it is embodied in the whole movement of seeking. It creates a center called me and a goal called awakening, and then it places distance between them. That distance is the whole problem. The monad is not an object. It is not a location. It is not something that can be approached the way the mind approaches information, status, or personal growth. The moment you imagine it as something to obtain, you have already turned it into an object within duality. And once that happens, the search becomes trapped inside the very structure it is trying to transcend. The seeker says, "I will get there." But who is this I? Usually, it is the psychological self-image, the one made of memory, comparison, fear, ambition, hope, hurt, and self-reference. It may become spiritual, refined, or disciplined, but it is still operating as a center that experiences itself as separate. So even when it seeks the highest truth, it does so as a divided self. That divided self cannot grasp the undivided. Not because it is bad, not because it is unworthy, but because separation cannot think its way into wholeness. The seeker assumes distance, and then spends years trying to cross that distance that was never real in the first place. This is why the search can become exhausting. You keep moving, but something essential never resolves. You collect teachings, practices, language, yet the ache remains. Why? Because the one doing the search is built from the belief in lack. And whatever is built from lack will keep recreating lack, even in the name of God. Another reason the seeker cannot find the monad is because the mind keeps trying to reduce it into an experience. It wants something dramatic, a cosmic light, a total collapse of thought, a supernatural event. And there is nothing wrong with powerful experiences. Some can be beautiful. Some can be transformative. Some can even break open the mind and reveal a deeper dimension of reality. But no experience is the monad itself. Why? Because experiences come and go. They appear, they intensify, and then they fade. Even the most sacred state still has a beginning and an end when seen through time. The mind then does what it always does. It remembers the experience, turns it into a benchmark, and starts chasing it again. Now the person is not just seeking truth, they are seeking a repeat, and that's another trap. The monad is not a passing state appearing to someone. It is prior to the whole structure of subject and object, prior to the experiencer and the experience, prior to the movement of grasping and losing. But the seeker wants something they can feel and confirm, something they can say happened, something they can use as proof. And that desire for proof keeps consciousness entangled in the field of appearances. This is why so many seekers are secretly addicted to spiritual highs. Not because they're foolish, but because the mind feels safer when truth becomes something measurable. If you can measure it, compare it, and talk about it, then the separate self still gets to remain in control. But the monad is not there to satisfy the self's need for confirmation. It is what remains when the entire structure of psychological ownership begins to lose its grip. This is where the path becomes especially subtle. A person can spend years reading sacred texts, meditating daily, purifying their life, and still remain trapped in the identity of being the one who is on the path.
that identity can feel meaningful. It can even feel elevated. But it is still an identity. And identity always depends on contrast. If I am the seeker, then there must be something I have not yet attained. This is why the ego can survive inside spirituality so easily. It simply changes clothes. Instead of being the worldly self, it becomes the spiritual self. Instead of saying, I am better than others because of money, it says, I am more conscious. Instead of chasing status through success, it chases status through purity, insight, and discipline. And all the while, the searcher remains intact. That's the danger. Because the more refined the search becomes, the harder it can be to notice that it is still organized around me. The seeker often believes that the path is dissolving the self, while in reality, it may be decorating it. That does not mean practice is useless. It means practice must become honest. You have to see when the search is being used to preserve the one who fears disappearing. You have to notice when spirituality becomes self-continuity disguised as transcendence. The seeker cannot find the monad because the seeker wants to remain the one who finds it. And that is the one thing that cannot come with you. Most of human life is structured around becoming. Become more successful. Become more attractive. Become more respected. So naturally, the mind imports that same pattern into the sacred. Now even realization becomes a future event. But the monad is not waiting in the future. The future is one of the primary ways the separate self postpones the truth. Because as long as realization belongs to tomorrow, the seeker gets to continue as a seeker today. That is the hidden bargain. I will keep searching, and one day I will reach it. But that sentence protects the sense of self more than it reveals the truth. It allows the mind to remain in motion without ever having to confront the possibility that what it seeks is already the case, and that the real issue is not distance, but misidentification. The monad is not realized by becoming something else. It is realized through the falling away of the false assumption that you are something separate to begin with. That is a very different movement. It is not acquisition. It's exposure. It's not construction. It's exposure. It's not self-improvement. It's exposure. So what is exposed? The constant habit of identifying with thought. The habit of taking the mental self-image to be what you are. The habit of turning reality into an object for the mind to possess. When these habits begin to loosen, something becomes obvious that was hidden in plain sight. What you were searching for was never absent. It was only obscured by the movement of becoming. The seeker cannot find the monad, because becoming cannot touch what is prior to time. This does not mean that you force yourself to stop seeking. That just becomes another strategy. You cannot bully your way into truth by pretending not to search. You cannot create a new identity called the one who has dropped the seeker. That is still the same pattern wearing different language. What matters is seeing clearly. Seeing the mechanics of the search. Seeing the restlessness. Seeing the assumption of lack. Seeing the hope that fulfillment is elsewhere. Seeing the subtle self that wants to survive enlightenment and report back with a trophy. That kind of seeing changes everything. Because when something false is deeply seen, it begins to lose its power. Then the search starts to quiet, not because you adopted a new belief, but because the engine of seeking is no longer being fed in the same unconscious way. In that quieting, there can be a very simple but profound shift. Not an explosion, not a performance, not a mystical badge. Just a plain, undeniable recognition that reality is already present before the mind comments on it. That being is already here before thought divides it. That awareness does not need to become aware. That the ground of all experience is not absent and never was. This is why humility matters so much on the path. Not performative humility, but real humility. The humility to admit that the mind cannot master the absolute. The humility to stop trying to possess what can only be obscured by possession. The humility to let truth be what it is, rather than what the seeker wants it to be. And in that humility, something relaxes. The separate self is no longer at the center, trying to grab the infinite. There's just this moment, this being, this ungraspable presence that no concept can contain and no seeker can own. That is closer to realization than all the desperate effort in the world. So why can't the seeker find the monad? Because the seeker begins with separation, moves through desire, depends on becoming, and tries to turn the absolute into something attainable. But the monad is not an achievement for the separate self. It is not found by moving farther into the search. It is revealed when the structure of seeking is seen for what it is. The irony is that the longing for truth can begin the journey. But at a certain point, the one who claims ownership of that journey must be seen through. Otherwise, the search just becomes another loop of self-reference. The seeker says, "When will I find it?" Truth says, "What is it that assumes that I am missing?" That question changes everything. Because when you stop treating the monad as an object in the distance, you begin to notice how much of your suffering came from the belief that you were other than what it is. And that is where the real shift begins. Not when the seeker becomes perfect, not when the mind gathers enough insight, not when you finally earn the right to arrive, but when the center that keeps saying "I am not there yet" is no longer taken as the truth of what you are. Then the whole search softens, and in that stillness, what was never absent no longer needs to be found. If this journey spoke to you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone ready to experience life beyond thought. Comment below, what changed in you when you stopped chasing and started seeing? I read every comment. If you would like to support my work directly, you can do so at buymeacoffee.com/MagnumOpus333. Or you can explore some original merchandise at my Teespring store online. The link is in the description below. Remember, your consciousness is the key that unlocks reality. Let's keep unlocking it together. Thank you for watching. Until next time.